we're filming this in a little different way because it seems these days it's hard to film sit-down videos during the day. Sorry, my old house floors are so creaky. It's hard to film sit-down videos during the day when I have my son, because just try to be present with him as much as possible. Sometimes I can film like quick little things, but when I'm trying to really complete my sentences, I really only get that time in the evenings. So I thought that I would get this light and we could do some sit down videos, especially since it gets so dark so early, which is my favorite. I love feeling cozy. So if you haven't, make yourself a cup of tea, get cozy, take a deep breath, just relax. I want to have a casual conversation and talk about home remedies. This is definitely a video focused on more for the beginner if you're just getting into it, but also if you just love talking about herbs and want to hear more of my perspective, then stick around. So if you aren't familiar, my name is Charlotte Faith. I am a certified herbalist through the Herbal Academy. I love that company and the course that they provide. They have so many different courses you can take. They have various different programs, and I always recommend them. They're an amazing free resource too. If you aren't interested in, going for classes, it is just an amazing source. They have so many free printables, and they always offer like free ebooks seasonally. And I just love that company so much and really recommend them. So always been interested in herbalism from a little girl because it was something that my mom was familiar with, and that was kind of like my first introduction. So it was nothing kind of new or unfamiliar, but as I got older and started dealing with some health issues, I kind of circled back to taking more of a holistic approach and working with herbalists and functional medicine doctors who usually start with herbs, and that was just really amazing, life-changing for me. And then when I wanted to start making my own herbal products and just going to school for it through the Herbal Academy, I would say that was probably about 3 years ago. I've been doing that, where really kind of taking it in a serious matter and really studying to be able to be a resource for my family and also those in my community. But with that, we're going to talk about home remedies today for the beginner. One thing I have to say that I think is really important is a lot of times people associate herbs with witchcraft and like woo-woo medicine. And while there are so many folklore stories and folk tales of herbs and witches and all this stuff and the people that use them, witches were women, okay? So let's just check that. A lot of these were like very intelligent women who were just healing other women. I think it's so sad, for starters. But two, the studies that I've done for herbs have been evidence-based programs. I think it is important to study it in that manner, to know the vitamins and minerals behind these herbs and why they do what they do. And that is why I chose to do certain programs like the Herbal Academy, because that's their approach to it. While they do share some fun facts and history about herbs along the way, that's just where I'm coming from, is more evidence-based studies behind the things that I'm going to talk about today. I could do a whole video on all of the folk tales and the fun history, because I do love learning about that stuff too. I think it's so fascinating. Wanted to make that known because I think a lot of times people can associate that together, and I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on it. But going into it, let's continue on our conversation about home remedies for the family. So in this video, we're going to talk about teas, tinctures, and bath products. And if you don't have a bath, there are other things you can do for that too, so don't worry. But starting off, we will dive into teas. So I would recommend these 5 teas. These are very family friendly for all ages. I would say, from children, toddlers, and babies are kind of their own thing. So I'm not really referencing that, but children, they're adults too, grandparents, any age, great for all families, and really something that you have to obviously figure out if you are on certain medications, things that would be safe for you personally. So with that being said, it's not medical advice, of course. The 5 that I would recommend would be chamomile. I have my notes here, by the way. Chamomile, lemon balm, peppermint, nettle, and rooibos. Chamomile is an amazing herb for relaxing the tummy, soothing anxiety. It's just an amazing tea to have any time of the day, but especially when you start to feel kind of a little bit of tummy ache or even a sore throat. It has amazing soothing properties, and it has kind of like a honey-like taste to it. Definitely something I thought I didn't like until I found good quality chamomile. So make sure when you're purchasing teas, especially if you want to do home remedies, I would recommend getting them in bulk. You will save money and you probably will be getting better quality. The next thing is lemon balm. Lemon balm is something that I actually get to grow myself, and technically I grow everything except for rooibos, but chamomile hasn't blossomed like I really need it to because I use a lot of it. But lemon balm, it grows in such abundance, and it is amazing for soothing nerves and soothing the tummy. It is known to actually be like mildly sedative, and I say that lightly because you would have to consume a lot of it in a very strong dose to really kind of get a sedative effect, but it does help to calm the nervous system, calm your stomach lining, all of that. It is, again, great for tummy aches, and a lot of times those anxious feelings can kind of be correlated to your stomach issues, so it's such a great one for that, and just amazing relaxation tea. Then the next one would be peppermint. So peppermint has a cooling effect, so it can be really great for those who are suffering with like headaches, or if you're dealing with like a cold that has like a mild fever. It can be helpful to kind of bring that temperature down, and it can also be great for sinuses. A lot of times peppermint and nausea are correlated, but it is important that if you have GERD symptoms, it can actually relax the esophageal sphincter, which can make your symptoms worse. So that is something to note. If you like have reflux issues and you're just like downing peppermint tea, it might not be helping you in the same way. Might want to go for something more like chamomile or lemon balm. However, it can be great for nausea. I know when I was pregnant, I was using a lot of peppermint tea. Some recommend, like a lot of midwives will recommend actually having spearmint, because spearmint is known to be kind of even safer than peppermint, but I was fine with just sweet mint. And there's so many varieties of mint, but a peppermint or spearmint are really great to have on hand. Next one is nettle. So nettle has a ton of vitamins and minerals. It's really probably best known for iron, magnesium, calcium, and it's just one of those nutritive teas that are so good to have on hand. It is a little bit more bitter out of the ones that I've listed, so if you are sensitive to that, you might need to add in some honey. Just kind of keep noted, it's not usually known for being the most delicious tea. I find it fine to drink plain. I don't need anything in it, but I'm also very accustomed to drinking herbal tea, so that's something that I enjoy. And then the last one that I would recommend is rooibos. So rooibos is actually African red bush, and I wanted to add this one because of being family friendly. It's something you can add into teas to help sweeten it up because it's just naturally sweet, and it does have really great antioxidant properties. It's amazing for heart health, so it is going to be beneficial, but it also brings a little bit of sweetness in there, which is sometimes good when you're working on home remedies for the whole family and encouraging others to drink tea. So you can mix rooibos into any of your teas if you wanted to. So you can blend them all together. You can pick two. Personally, tonight I blended lemon balm and chamomile. I love the subtle lemony flavor from lemon balm, and then with the honey kind of natural floral taste of chamomile. They're just like my favorites to drink in the evening. It does switch up, like, I don't know, every other week or something, but that has been like my go-to the last couple weeks. Is that combination is so delicious. Now that we have talked about teas, we will move on to talking about tinctures, tonics, and oxymels. Starting off with tinctures. Tinctures are concentrated herbal extracts, and you extract the herb's properties by using alcohol. Most commonly, it's known to use vodka or brandy. You can use glycerin, which would be an alcohol-free version. A lot of times if you look on the shelves, if there are kid-safe, like children tinctures, they will almost always have glycerin. And I have not worked with glycerin just because I don't necessarily need to in my life right now. Tinctures, though, are typically known for more of like an adult use, and that's because they do taste a little bitter because you are extracting herbs with alcohol. And I think a very common one that a lot of people start with is making an echinacea tincture, which is a really amazing immune system support that you can use at the onset of a cold or flu symptoms. They are fast-acting remedies, so they are not to be used for a long stretch. Okay, so small periods of time, small amounts, very potent remedies. And the nice thing about tinctures, especially when using alcohol like a vodka or brandy as mentioned, they have a very, very long shelf life. So essentially you could store them for years and years and they would be just as great as when you extracted them. With tinctures, something to take note is that you do want to make these things in advance. You don't want to make them right before, or if you're like, oh, I feel like I have a cold, I should make a tincture. It's not really how it works. You want to kind of extract the herb and it needs to sit for a long period of time, for a few weeks at minimum. And then you would strain herbs out and have your tincture left over, which would just be simply an extracted version of your herbs. And that would sit on your shelf for years and years. I mean, technically you would want to use it. You don't want to sit there forever, but on the other hand, hopefully you don't get sick and you don't have to use it, but you do want it to be there. So make sure that when you're making a tincture, you're always labeling the date and exactly what it is, because there's been times I've forgotten to label and I think, oh, I'll remember. And then I pull it from the back of my shelf 2 weeks later and I can't remember what I did in that bottle. So that's definitely to be known. Just to recap, tinctures are ideal for people looking for a strong and fast remedy. They're really great for colds, stress, digestive issues. Next, to talk about oxymels. So oxymel is actually a Latin word and it meaning vinegar or acid, actually acid and honey. So that's what oxymel means, and we do that by using vinegar and honey. There are some recipes out there that would say that oxymels can be done with just honey, but like a true oxymel does have to have the acid included in it because of that's what the word means, but acid and honey. You can use maple syrup, but traditionally for thousands of years people use honey because it has a lot of antimicrobial properties and it's just an amazing benefit to our health. But if you were vegan and you did not want to use honey, you could use maple syrup and it would provide you with that sweet taste to make it easier to consume. And that's why oxymels are really great for children who have a hard time taking tinctures, again, because tinctures use the alcohol, it's like really bitter, and even if you're using glycerin, it can be sweeter. But you know, honey and vinegar technically would be like a more natural way to do it. So oxymels are really great for younger children, or even if you're just like sensitive to that flavor and like you have a hard time taking tinctures, then you could do oxymels. So they are usually consumed by a spoonful. Some people stir them into tea or even just water, but they're more of a mild flavor, more palatable, and it's great for those of us who want to avoid alcohol and don't want to bother with trying to buy glycerin and all that. So they do have a little bit of a shorter shelf life. Usually it's around like 6 months to a year, just to be safe. And you would still want to, you know, be mindful about how you're storing your oxymels. But oxymels, again, are a really great way for a gentle approach to creating an extraction. And a lot of times you'll see oxymels for soothing sore throats or coughs because of having that honey can really help to soothe things. Or even if you were dealing with like a strep, a lot of times you'll see like either a thyme oxymel using the herb thyme and vinegar and honey, creating something like that could be really great for soothing a cough or sore throat. So that would be an example of that. So Next, we will talk about tonics. So tonics are usually, okay, I'm like getting a little bit hot. I'm kind of sweating a little bit, and I don't know why. I think I'm gonna have to ditch this. Oh, I gotta cover up my dog just a second. Okay, he's covered up now. Anyways, okay, so the next thing we'll talk about are tonics. Tonics are different than tinctures and different than oxymels because they are created to take over long periods of time, and they are gentle, can be used for like daily use. Now, based on your symptoms, if you were making, for example, a tonic would be fire cider or an elderberry syrup. Those are technically both considered tonics because they are water-based, like a tea or even a vinegar infusion. So it's not necessarily like an extraction in the same way as a tincture would be. So just so that you don't get confused, I feel like I keep repeating myself, but tinctures are meant to be taken over a short period of time, and tonics are meant for long periods of time, like an elderberry syrup you can take on a daily basis. Now, a lot of times with tonics, you see people making them seasonally because the cold and flu season around the fall and winter, that is typically when people like build up their supply of these things and making them for their households, which is great because we are more susceptible to colds based on just how we are living in our society today. People go back to school, holidays and all that. So you often see those recipes coming up around this time of year. But I personally take elderberry syrup year round because I think it's delicious, and why not support my immune system? And fire cider is something that I do have on hand, but I'm not as like, I don't know, it's just not something that I'm too stressed about having all the time. It can be a little bit, the thing is I don't want to talk too much about fire cider because I don't really consider that a super family friendly. There's so many recipes for it. I did post a video about it last year, and you can probably easily find that because I haven't posted that many videos, but it's very spicy. Like there's raw onion and lots of peppers and like just lots of spice. It's great for like your digestion, but it is spicy. Like if you know what apple cider vinegar tastes like, then you can imagine what fire cider tastes like. I like it. It is good. I add honey to mine. It's like nice sweet kick, but anyways, not really family friendly. However, elderberry syrup I think is very family friendly. It's so delicious. I do have my own little recipe on it. Maybe I'll link that on my blog, nourishtobeauty.com, but mine has elderberry and I also put honey in it. I've also done maple syrup in the past when I was out of honey, so you could do that too. And then I put cinnamon and clove. It's just really, really delicious and something that is so beginner friendly. I would recommend if you're also a mom or just a girl like myself and you want to have a little girls' night, you could encourage everyone to maybe like help with bringing a little bit of supplies to make it, and then make a big batch of it simmered on the pot, and then everyone can split it up and take home their own jar of elderberry syrup. Mine doesn't last that long because we take it every day, so I am like continually replenishing our batch, but it does last for months and months in the fridge, and it is a little bit customizable depending on what you want to put in there, but I would recommend keeping it like a little bit simple. And as mentioned, there's a ton of different recipes for it online. Personally, I don't have fresh elderberries on our property, but I just buy them in bulk and it turns out great. So you can do that too. Be just getting like dried elderberry. So that would be a great tonic to make for your family. So we talked about tinctures. For example, like echinacea tincture for immune support. We talked about oxymels, which would be like a vinegar and honey, such as like a thyme oxymel for sore throats. And then we also talked about tonics, like an elderberry syrup to support your immune system. And it's just there's so many studies done on elderberries. They're amazing, and everybody should be making their own elderberry syrup. Highly recommend. so much more affordable, so delicious. The last thing we'll talk about are bath soaks. And I want to go ahead and say, if you do not have a bath, I would recommend having some form of a large basin. If you want to even just use an old giant Tupperware or a big bowl or something, you can do foot soaks, and that alone can be so healing. And I would recommend it if you don't have a bath, because I think everyone should be taking baths more often. They can be so healing. A lot of times we just associate them with de-stress and self-care, which they do both of those things as well, but you can add simple herbs and still just gain all the benefits from taking the time to soak in that bath. I like to recommend having lavender, rose, and calendula. Those are 3 florals herbs that are so healing for the skin, so soothing and very gentle. They're also amazing for like aromatherapy. Just the smell alone can bring relaxation, but they are so beneficial for the skin. And if you wanted to, you could also add in like oatmeal. It can be so great for skin, especially if you're someone who deals with like eczema or any kind of like rash conditions. Unfortunately, if you live in the United States, I do recommend getting organic oats whenever possible, because you at least are saving yourself from glyphosate, which is a just really harsh chemical that they spray. It's basically Roundup all over oats, and we don't want to put that near our skin, so I would recommend getting organic whenever possible. But the other herb that I think a lot of times isn't mentioned for like bath products is rosemary. Rosemary is my favorite herb. I think it's my favorite of all time. It is great for memory, actually. And it's also great for respiratory tract. If you're ever dealing with like any kind of, again, cough, or I just kind of mentioned coughs because I feel like we're in that season of colds and coughs. So that's also what kind of triggered me to do this video this time of year. And just adding some fresh sprigs of rosemary into your bath can be so beneficial for stress relief, muscle relaxation, mental clarity. And if you didn't want to put, say you don't have fresh sprigs, or if you don't want to put it directly in your bath, you can either put it in like a tea bag of some kind and then put it into your bath, or you could steep it on the stove like a tea. Just bring your water up to a low simmer and steep your rosemary with a lid until you have rosemary tea, really concentrated. You can strain out your rosemary little needles, and then you can pour that water, which is essentially tea, directly into your bath. So that would be like another way of doing it to obtain the benefits of it without, I guess, having more like a mess. But I don't really find it that messy to put herbs in my bath. As long as you're like being mindful about it, they can just wash down the drain, or at least that's what I do. I just wash them down the drain. If I can't, I get as many wiped out as I can. Anyways, these are really great for unwinding before bed, and just a really like gentle way to relax and gain the benefits of herbs. So I think that's pretty much all I'll talk about in today's video for family herbal remedies. I'm trying to look to see if I have any other notes, but I think that's it. I feel like I've been talking for quite a while. I feel like I could keep talking, but I will try and wrap it up right now. So if you do have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you would like to see more sit-down videos like this where we're talking about home remedies or specific herbs for certain problems, then leave it down in the comments, and maybe I'll do a part 2 talking about supplies and where I get my resourced herbs from, the ones that I can't grow for myself. And also check out my blog or my website, nourishtobeauty.com. I share some holistic recipes over there. You can learn more about my story and other little tidbits. But I'm also on other social media channels if you want to check them out. If you do have any video requests, leave them down in the comments as well. I hope you're having a really great day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.